Hey guys, welcome back. It's Missy, and if you're new here, welcome. I am a life and relationship coach, and on this channel we get to the root of the issue and we learn how to heal and deal. So if that's your thing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I would love for you to be a part of the fam. And don't forget to hit that bell button so you can be one of the first ones here. Today we're going to talk about what causes relationships to fail and what helps relationships succeed. And this is all based on research. It's all based on a study. So over the weekend, I was doing my usual reading, just trying to learn. I'm always trying to learn to help my clients better. So I came across this psychologist website named Dr.Gottman, which I'll leave down below. The study was on what causes relationships to fail and what helps them succeed. And they predicted this with 90% accuracy. And I was like, this is perfect. So cue the video today. So in I think about 1970, there was a psychologist named Dr. Gottman and a researcher, Robert Leverson, I think how he says his name. And they studied married couples and they'd have them talk out a conflict and then they had them come back 9 years later. Cue the results. So there's a couple things we're going to go into. One, we're going to go into something called the 4 Horsemen. If you grow up in a religious home, you probably can tell that that's bad news. And we're going to talk about the antidote that counteracts the 4 Horsemen. And then we're going to talk about the magic ratio. And this is all on Dr. Gottman's website, which I will leave the link down below. I really hope I'm saying their names right. If Dr. Gottman and Robert Leverson ever come across this video, I'm really sorry. Can you imagine if they ever came across this and they're like, why is this girl mispronouncing my name? You can tell I grew up with Italians. So the 4 Horsemen are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. So criticism is different than a complaint or constructive criticism. It's an attack on your partner's character. Criticism can make the other person feel like they're not cared for. And it's not what you say, but how you say it. For example, you say, oh, you never pick up your socks. You're always an idiot. You're always selfish. You never think about anyone else. That's straight criticism. Constructive criticism, or even just expressing your complaint, is you expressing from a vulnerable place how something makes you feel, and then also saying what you want to correct the behavior in the future. So, hey, when you don't pick up your socks, it really makes me feel overwhelmed and I feel like there's so much that needs to be done. Could you please pick up your socks in the future so it could help me out? See, you're not starting with the immediate you're starting with how something makes you feel. You feel overwhelmed by the socks and you want something different. When we hear criticism, it makes us feel not cared for. And here's the thing, if you have criticism in your relationship, it doesn't mean that it's doomed. That we all have slip-ups where we say like, you did this, like that's bound to happen. It's all a matter of how often you criticize, which really leads to the other horsemen. It's just criticism is the leading cause to make your partner feel rejected and hurt. And then that's when the doom starts. Now the antidote to this is to use I statements. Come from a vulnerable place. Remember your end goal. A lot of times criticism comes from a hurt place. You don't want to come from a hurt place. Your end goal is not to hurt your partner. Your end goal is to be heard or be understood or to receive something at the end. That's most of us. But it's just hurt comes out. So for example, a way you can express yourself is say, I feel hurt when you call me lazy and I'd appreciate it if you used more loving language or told me what you needed. You're expressing the problem, you're telling a solution, and then the need gets fulfilled. The next one is contempt, which is way worse than criticism because now with contempt, you see them below you, you see them beneath you. This comes from consistent negative thoughts about your partner. And this comes from resentment. This comes from a very hurt place. So you will treat your partner with disrespect. You will mock them. You may mimic them, ridicule them, or eye roll, or like sigh. You'll make your partner feel worthless or like you're above them. And also partners that express contempt are more likely to suffer from illnesses. Because think of it this way, you're in a low place, you feel very negative, it makes you vulnerable to illnesses. And an example of contempt is, let's say your partner had a hard day and you've been in your head all day thinking about how pissed off you are at your partner because maybe they didn't take you out on a date the day before, or rather they don't show enough appreciation. So you're thinking all these negative things, and then they come home and they say like, hey, I had a hard day. you immediately will probably be like, you had a hard day. You're not the only one who has a hard day. Everyone has a hard day. I had a hard day. What did you like, print some papers at work? Oh, that sucks. Yeah, try being in my shoes. I had to take care of X, Y, and Z. I take care of all these things. You know, that's showing contempt. It's showing like you're above, they're beneath you. I'm sure some people want to punch me in the face after me doing that. That was very obnoxious. Now, the antidote to contempt is to build respect and appreciation. So the way that you can do this is, every time you notice yourself thinking negatively about your partner, replace it with a positive thought about your partner. Replace it with thinking that you're grateful for them, or that you appreciate them. You appreciate some character traits that they have. Or maybe you can have an acceptance of their flaws, like maybe sometimes they are a little bit messy. If you create these positive thoughts in your mind, you're less likely to entertain those negative thoughts, and you're less likely to then lash out on them or act on those negative thoughts. So you want to express appreciation, gratitude, respect, and affection. This is also part of the 5-to-1 magic ratio, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So an example of this is, let's say for instance, your partner said that they would walk the dog before they left, and then they left and they didn't walk the dog. Naturally, you may get pissed because they consistently say they'll do things and then they don't do them. So you may roll your eyes and be like, oh, again, this stupid idiot. What you can do is you can recognize when you're doing that and think of the things that you appreciate. You know, they're a very hard worker. Maybe show them some empathy and be a little bit more understanding. So that way it will shift. It's not like you're going to excuse the behavior because you can bring it up, but you'll do it in a more compassionate, loving way. So you're turning into acknowledging and understanding. And you're not acting like that you're superior, and you're showing them some respect. The next one is defensiveness, which this is a response to criticism. If you are someone who has a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a very hard time taking in constructive criticism, you have a hard time admitting when you're wrong, or you feel like you're unjustly accused, you may respond with defensiveness. And what happens when you respond with defensiveness is it shows that you're not taking your partner's feelings into consideration. So an example of defensiveness is if your partner comes up to you and says, hey, I'm trying to have some quiet time in the room. I feel like you're being kind of loud. Can you kind of lower your voice? A way that you may respond if you're very defensive is, I'm not being loud, you're being loud. Why don't you go and close the door? Like, I'm not doing anything wrong. You're immediately dismissing your partner and completely invalidating them and their own needs. And this is something that often comes up when you're very resentful. So the antidote to being defensive is take responsibility. When you get defensive, you're pretty much saying, the problem's not me, it's you. Then what happens is that this problem doesn't get resolved, and then it just continues to happen. That's why fights may consistently come up, because it never really gets resolved. When you can recognize your part, you can actually do something about it. And your partner's more likely to own their part too. So let's say, for instance, your partner brings up that you're on your phone a lot. You may not necessarily agree, and that's fine, but you should at least still acknowledge your partner and see a little bit where they're coming from. Maybe you can see that you've been a little bit too much on your phone, more than you would like. So you can acknowledge and say, hey, you know what, you're right. We shouldn't really necessarily be I shouldn't necessarily be on my phone so much. I'm gonna take that into consideration. I'm gonna try to be on my phone less. I'm gonna be more aware because I value you and I love you. Now, if they're accusing you of something that is outright like crazy, then that's a whole nother story. But you can at least validate their feelings and where they're at, but you don't always have to agree. So you always want to look at your part of where you can grow, and if you have a healthy partner, they'll do the same. And then the last horseman is stonewalling, which, if we're going to talk about narcissists, that is the narcissist's favorite thing to do. But we're not really talking about narcissists, we're talking about more healthier relationships. So stonewalling is a response to contempt. It is basically when one of you is overwhelmed emotionally, you will check out. So you will withdraw from the conversation, you will go get distracted, you will dismiss the conversation, you'll just leave. And it also will result in you ignoring your partner, maybe giving them the cold shoulder, not answering them. You know, to some degree, it can result in punishment. Like, you want to punish your partner and not talk to them. So one of you will stop responding, and then there's no conversation. It eventually becomes a habit where the partner can't handle the conversation and they need to find a way out. It's also a form of punishment to let the other person know they're not happy with them. So if you're ever in a moment with your partner where things are getting very heated and you're getting the urge to stop talking to them or stonewall, you can say, hey, listen, I feel like I'm checking out. I need a little bit of a break and I need to go calm down. Dr. Gottman talks about the answer, the antidote to that is self-soothing. So what they did is they had the couple, after they got in a heated argument, take a break and go kind of do their own thing. And after 20 minutes, they both calmed down. It showed that their heart was racing when they were arguing, and then when they came back, their heart had calmed down. Because they had gotten to that emotional response, now they're at a more logical response, so they can talk in a more clear, logical way. And then I'll come back. The most important thing is that you guys have to come back and resolve this situation. A lot of times people, they'll check out. The thing is, people can walk away from situations that we need to, but they also need to come back and resolve it. You can't just walk away every time you don't like hearing something. You have to eventually come back. So either you need to do it, or you could suggest it to your partner. And Dr. Gottman didn't suggest this. He suggested that you know, kind of distract yourself and calm down. But something I think that would really help, that I personally do that's really helpful, is like write out all my angry feelings, so that way it's out of my body. Because I'm someone where I will like tick. I'll think of the negative things over and over. And that's another thing, is when you're going and getting this break, you don't want to keep reiterating how pissed you are. Like, I can't believe they did this thing. Like, I'm gonna go run out of the house right now. I'm so pissed. Like, you don't want to keep reiterating that in your mind. It's super important you don't do that. So what you want to do is you want to be able to calm down. You want to think about like what your end goal is. You want to self-reflect. You want to soothe yourself, and you want to just calm yourself down. And things you could do to calm down are like meditate, read, listen to music. You can maybe go outside for a little bit of a walk, but beware of the language you're using. So those are the things that destroy a relationship. Those are the things that resulted in divorce. Now, the other part of it is the 5-to-1 magic ratio that he talks about. This is the difference between happy couples and unhappy couples. And it's balancing positive and negative interactions during a conflict. So the 5-to-1 ratio that came up is that they saw with happy couples, for every 1 negative interaction, they had 5 positive interactions. So for instance, if a happy couple gets into an argument, they still are able to maybe be positive and joke around and be silly. Unhappy couples take jabs, they mock, they show that contempt. And so they may try to be spiteful or get revenge. So when there's negative interactions, like maybe one of you reprimands the other one, or you point a finger and there's negative body language, there's eye rolling, or there's dismissiveness, or you're critical, that needs to be repaired. It's okay if it happens, but it has to be repaired. And that's also important of how often it happens to really determine how happy a couple will be. So Dr. Gottman talks about 8 positive interactions. So you need some of the 5 in your relationship regularly, and also like after conflict or during conflict. So the first thing is be interested, listen, ask questions, especially open-ended questions. Be curious, have eye contact, nod. So some questions you can ask is, hey, what did you mean by this? Or can you share a little bit more about your experience? Or can you share a little bit more about what you're talking about? I don't really understand. So there's things you can say during conflict. And it's super important to do these things even when you're not having conflict. Just regularly act interested in what your partner's doing. So maybe your partner plays poker and you don't really play poker. You can ask questions about it, or even their job. Maybe you're not that interested in jobs, but you can ask and show that you're genuinely interested and wanting to know about the person you love, what they're doing, because communication is super important. The next thing is expressing affection. So hugs, kissing, holding hands. Embrace them when they come home. Have a loving goodbye. When you show love for them in general, it reduces the stress, especially during conflict. Something I've done with past partners is when it started to get very heated, it would make me feel sad. So I mean, it'd be like, you know what, let's hug. And it would actually help the tone, especially me, because I'm spicy. I could get from 0 to 60. It would help me to calm down because I was able to realize, hey, this is someone that I love. So during a conflict and things are getting really heated, don't be afraid to maybe reach out for that hand or show that empathy, or even give a hug if they're showing that they're having a lot of stress. The next thing is demonstrate that they matter. So this is when your listening skills really come into play. Bring up something that really matters to your partner. Even if you have no interest in it, just show that you value them. And it's important to do these things regularly, these little things. So you know that they love rocks, maybe picking up a rock for them. It's a matter of being thoughtful. Or maybe you know that they love a clean home and the house has been a wreck lately, clean up that home for them. These little things that you do will also influence how you have disagreements. The next one is intentional appreciation. So this is pretty much the antidote that counteracts contempt. But like I said earlier, how you think about your partner will influence how you treat them. If you remember what you're grateful for about them, what you appreciate about them, and what you love about them, you will treat them in a more positive way. So if they leave dirty dishes in the sink, you can remember why you love them. And it's super important to express that appreciation. So verbalize it to them. Give them compliments. Understand their love language, which is a whole video in itself that I need to make. Do the things that you know make them feel loved and express it. The next one is find opportunities for agreement. If you ever want someone to agree with you or be on your side, always validate what they're saying first. Or find something that they're saying that you can agree with or find common ground. This will put their defense mechanism down and will make them less likely to be on the attack. So try to find ways that you can acknowledge their side and acknowledge their feelings. And then watch them be more likely to be able to hear you out and see from your side. The next one is empathize and apologize. Empathy is a huge way we connect as humans. It's important we show that we understand and we hear what our partner is saying, because that's all we pretty much want in life. We want to be understood, we want to be heard. We want to be acknowledged. So you want to tell them things like, I could see why you would feel like that. Or put yourself in their shoes and imagine, how would I feel if I was in that situation? How would I feel if I was sitting at home waiting for my partner and they didn't show up? How would that make me feel? Or how would I feel if I constantly had to clean the house and no one ever helped me? Anytime you can acknowledge your partner, do it. And if you notice that you're getting in a very heated argument, you can ask yourself, okay, did I validate my partner? Or how can I validate my partner so that they feel heard? And own up and apologize when you're wrong. We do things, it's okay. You know, me, I'm someone who I am pretty witty and I've been known as the funny one, and sometimes it's a hit or miss when you're the funny one. Sometimes you say insensitive things that you don't mean and you have to just own it and say, you know what, I messed up and I'm sorry. When I was a kid, I would always feel so shameful, like, wow, I suck, I'm the worst person. But now I'm like, you know what, sometimes jokes are a hit or miss. It's part of the risk of being funny. So apologize when you're wrong, own up to it. It's okay to be wrong. You just have to own up to it and improve. If you can't own up to where you're wrong in the relationship, or your partner can't own up to where they're wrong in the relationship, you can't go anywhere. There's no growth. So you both have to own your parts. The next thing is accept your partner's perspective. In arguments, it's very often that both people think they're right. But the thing is, both perspectives can be valid. You could see it that you did something one way, and they could see that they did something another way, and that's just how you guys view it. That's your memory. We all go based on our memory. Both of your perspectives can be valid, but just because you oppose your partner's viewpoint doesn't mean that you can't validate them. It doesn't mean that you agree, it just means that you're showing respect. And how you can show this is just by summarizing what your partner's saying. So for instance, let's say you guys are having a disagreement about money. You can say, what I'm hearing is that you feel like with our extra income, we should go take it on vacations because you feel like you don't have enough freedom and you're very overwhelmed and stressed. Perfect way to validate. Now you maybe disagree because you feel like the extra income should go to emergency funds. That's when you guys can compromise. It's a win-win. You have your feelings, they have theirs, and you can come to some sort of compromise. And the last thing is you make jokes. This one, hands down, is my favorite one because it's the most important in any relationship to me personally. If you're gonna be in a relationship with me, you gotta make jokes. So that means if you're overwhelmingly more on the serious side, you'll probably hate my guts. So that means teasing, silliness, being playful with each other, having inside jokes, having fun, like going to roller parks, having fun, like going roller skating or going to amusement parks. And you can also make jokes when you're in an argument. It's important to read the room though, because if you're in a very heated argument, it can come across as mocking or not taking it seriously. But there's a time and a place when you can kind of make those jokes or make it very lighthearted. So when you make jokes, you want it to be in a respectful way and in a way that brings you guys closer. So a joke that had happened in one of my previous relationships was when we were in a lighthearted mood and we didn't feel like hearing what the other person was saying, we would close our eyes and pretend we were sleeping. And then the other person, when they realized they were being ignored, they would come over and they would see that the other person was closing their eyes. And then we would laugh. Or for instance, there was this one time that I used to make my boyfriend at the time lunch for work. And there was this one time I was just really not feeling good. I was really sick. And instead of making it himself, he brought the sandwich stuff into the bed for me to make it. Like, just having things like that is super important in a relationship. You don't want to be ultra serious all the time or always being accusing each other of cheating and lying. There needs to be those fun, lighthearted moments. Now that we've talked about all of that, now you want to observe your relationship and you want to see how often do these four horsemen come up, how often do these negative things come up, and how often do you guys have positive interactions. You can even jot it down if you want. And now that you have this knowledge, you can do something about it. And you can also have your partner watch this video and you guys can do something about it together. But the thing is, if your partner doesn't value you or the relationship, don't try to push it. It is the way it is. This is a video for people, and I'm sure this is knowledge based on Dr. Gottman, for people that genuinely want successful relationships and they want to actually grow and change. So try it out and comment below and let me know your experience. Shout out to Dr. Gottman and Robert Leverson. This is a great study. So what do you guys think? Leave it on the comments below, and please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share with someone you think may need it. Until next time, thanks for watching. Bye guys. Does anyone else get calls like 3 times a day about someone calling about your car warranty? I don't have a car. I don't have an expired warranty. Why are you calling me? Like, cancel it already. Like, you keep warning me, just cancel it. I don't need it. About relationship. I always get in my head. That's why I need somebody jump cuts. A psychologist named Dr. Gottman. There was a researcher. Can't get my shit together. Girl, we doing the thumbnail. Oh, this is a long video. Whatever, girl, whatever. Why do I always forget defensiveness? I was the annoying kid that I took a bunch of newspaper pictures and placed it all over the family photos. Like, the worst kid. And that's only the start of it. Like,